Welcome to the upfront. Today, again, we have seen that American troops, they are landing one of the vessels of the Iranians, which were carrying oil from Iran. There's a kind of word, the words war between both Iranians and the Americans and the people. The entire world is watching that how those talks, which are expected in Pakistan, and Islamabad has already made a lot of arrangements, but still there's no fixed day or date or time for those talks. So I have a very eminent guest today, Ambassador Asif Durrani, who has served as an ambassador in Iran as well, a long diplomatic career. Thank you very much, Mr. Durrani, for joining me. How you see the situation which is developing in the Middle East, especially when we look at the Strait of Hormuz blockade one side by the Iranians, and then the Americans in the Arabian Ocean, when they are blocking the Iranians' free movement there?
Yeah, thank you, Vaishnav. I think it's a stalemate, and in political terminology, it should be a stalemate. So they are not moving ahead for the time being, but I think negotiations are continuing on both sides. And hopefully they may resume their formal negotiations in Islamabad if I think latest by tomorrow. Yeah.
So do you think that once the Iranians announced to open up the Strait of Hormuz, when our chief of defense was in Iran a few days back, an ex-message by the president of United States of America, Mr. Trump, he said that we are not going to open up the blockade that we have, announced against the Iranians. Do you think that that was the time when the Americans should have reciprocated a goodwill of the Iranians?
Well, I think it's the U.S. has not done good to the process of dialogue, and this blockade was unnecessary, especially when Iran had opened the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump yesterday announced the extension of ceasefire. But at the same time, he said that the blockade would continue. So, in a way, he conveyed that the stalemate would continue. So here, I think that has derailed the process for the time being. But I think dialogue is on, and efforts are being made at the diplomatic channels that it should be lifted, this blockade, and dialogue should be resumed. Yeah.
How you see what is those elements or reasons that it prevents the Americans to move forward when the Iranians say that until this illegal or this blockade is continuing, we are not going to talk under the pressure. So what are those elements that are preventing the American president or the administration to move forward and remove those bottlenecks, which are a kind of a blockage between the negotiation?
I think it's the Israeli lobby. Prime Minister Netanyahu is the biggest spoiler, and there's no doubt that President Trump's team includes ardent supporters of Israel, especially Netanyahu. So that's a possibility, because otherwise, if the United States is serious, then it should not create unnecessary hurdles like blockade of the Arabian Sea. Yeah.
Do you think that the American president can afford to continue this war as he has announced the ceasefire when it was expiring a day back? referring to the Pakistani Prime Minister and the Field Marshal. Do you think that the way the popularity of American president is declining, and naturally they are going to a midterm elections end of this year, is it in favor of the American president, Mr. Donald Trump, to continue this war?
No, I don't think so that continuation of war would favor President Trump. Reason is that there's very little appetite in the United States about Iran war, and we have already seen that around 72% of the people are not in support of Iran-US war, and similarly, President Trump's popularity has plunged to 36% level, and definitely this is not going to favor him in the coming weeks and months, and especially when midterm elections are to be held in the first week of November. So I think the American administration and President Trump's close allies would be, quite sensitive to this situation, and hopefully they will take correct decision and not only end the war, but also encourage Iran to sit on the negotiating table and sort out issues which have been bedeviling the relationship for the past 47 years. Yeah.
Few weeks from now, I mean, the American president is supposed to be visiting the China, and naturally, the bigger table is going to be placed before the two, largest economies of the world. So the American president must be hoping and must be planning to end this war and sign some kind of a agreement with the Iranians, so that he can sell this back to the Americans, as well as he give a kind of a message to the China that America and the Donald Trump administration is interested in peacemaking and trade instead of war and conflict. Is it so?
Sorry, your voice was breaking. Can you repeat the question, please?
I'm just saying that is it that the American president wants to strike a deal with the Iranians before reaching to China for a dialogue?
I don't know. I can't say about that. But, we'll come to know about it soon, whether he wants to reach a deal before going to China, because I don't know what Iran war has to do. And in his dialogue with China, they have different issues on the table as far as in US-China trade is concerned and other issues are concerned. Yes, of course, Iran would be one of them, but it is all about the current situation in the Strait of Hormuz between Iran and the US. And sooner they resolve it, I think better it would be not only for the two countries, but also for the region and beyond. Yeah.
The Iranians, we have been witnessing for the last few days that they have been displaying different kinds of missiles during their public rallies. The people who are supporting the present regime, and naturally they are showing a kind of a solidarity that they do stand with their government and with their regime against the Americans. So is it a kind of a posturing and messaging to the Israelis and Americans that Iran is ready if they go for another, continuing this war?
If there's war, I think Iranian people would be behind their flags. And this is what they have displayed during the past few weeks. And also last year when Israel and US attacked on Iran. So Iran, their nationalism is quite strong, even if they may have political differences. And you have seen during the past these two wars, Iranian people rallying behind their flag. So I think Iran would fight it out irrespective of the attackers, whether Israel or the United States. Yes.
The Europeans are meeting, and even today they are meeting, discussing this Iran-America-Israel war. And we have seen that most of the European countries they did not physically supported the American attack on the Iranians. Some of the countries refused to provide logistical support to the Americans, especially the airports and other logistics. So how you see that they are considering their relations with the Israelis? Would the European, countries be able to criticize or to, be together against the Israelis? What human rights violation they have been committing in Gaza, in Lebanon, and their illegitimate war against the Iranians?
Well, European Union is not supporting President Trump's war, and which has annoyed him a lot. And you may have seen his statements against the French president, the Italian president, Spanish prime minister. So I think that's quite obvious, and it has also brought cracks in the NATO's ranks, and because the plea is that in order to NATO be on board, there are certain conditions which are to be met, and United States did not meet those conditions. Especially, it took a unilateral decision to attack Iran. So therefore, support from NATO has not been forthcoming. And this is the situation which is likely to continue. Yes.
Even today, we have seen that the energy prices were naturally fluctuating in the international market, but it was on the high side since there is no progress. The talks that were supposed to be held in Islamabad is still it is being awaited. Do you think that the energy pressure, the prices pressure, will force both the sides, especially the American side, which is affecting the entire international economy, to resolve this issue as soon as possible?
Well, for the time being, American oil exporters are making money, and they are minting money. And I think President Trump would care less about the oil prices. In fact, the hedging process has, gone up, and everyone is hedging about the coming down of the prices or going up of the prices, and people in the middle are making money. The brokers are making money. So the situation would be bad, and it's likely to be bad in the coming weeks and months. Yes.
American says that 500 million per day, $500 million the Iranians were making per day when their oil was being exported, and we have blocked that artery, and financially they are being damaged. Do you think that is going to put a pressure on the Iranians?
Well, let's see. I think the oil which they are exporting to China, I think that Americans are not going to block, otherwise it would create problems. I'm not sure how much they blocked the oil meant for China. That would be important. In that case, if close to 1 million barrel per day is being exported to China, and that matters a lot. So I don't know on what basis Mr. Trump is calculating $500 million per day losses to Iran. Yeah.
Finally, Mr. Durrani, kindly please tell me that how you see the Pakistani mediation, the Pakistan role, and do you think that if this stalemates or standoff between the two countries, I mean the Iran and the Americans, continue, that will have a kind of impact on Pakistan as well?
I think Pakistan is in a comfortable position being a mediator because it has done its utmost to bring the two parties to negotiate. And that is the job of a mediator and a facilitator, which I think Pakistan has done it. And it also shows the trust by the United States and Iran in Pakistan's mediation. And whatever may be the result, I think Pakistan's role would be appreciated. It has already been appreciated internationally, and I'm sure whatever may be the result, it would be appreciated by the people who are watching this situation closely. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Asif Durrani, for your precious time on a very important issue. You shared your views and opinion, expert opinion. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.